Hoo-yah!
Hello there, fellow nerds. Welcome to this really cool episode of Gosu Coder, where we talk a little bit about the new iPhones that were just unveiled. I guess it was actually yesterday now. But ultimately, I want to talk about this from a developer's perspective. So the first thing to note is the iPhone 8, not drastically different. They've actually done some pretty interesting things, in my opinion. I'm looking right now at the Apple website for the iPhone 8 specs, and they've actually narrowed it down to just three colors: gold, silver, and space gray. The capacity starts at 64 gigs, or you can go up to 256 gigabytes. I'm actually kind of a fan that they did that they actually simplified that down. No more rose gold, no more of the crazy colors that were there. The size and weight seems to be pretty much the same that it was in the iPhone 7. It has a Retina display, 4.7 inch widescreen LCD, 1334 by 750 pixel resolution, 1400 to 1 contrast ratio, the true tone brightness, the wide color display, the display zoom. It has an A11 Bionic chip with 64-bit architecture, a neural engine. Those of you that are following some AI machine learning will know that the neural engine is actually powering the calculation that happens for facial recognition. And it kind of learns and adapts over time based on how your appearances change. It's actually pretty fantastic. I'm really excited about trying that out. It has a 12 megapixel camera, has a digital zoom up to 5x. Then let's see here. Oh yeah, the really cool thing is it has a 1.8 aperture. So those of you that follow cameras will know that should give us a pretty good depth of field effect, possibly. I'm not really 100% sure how good that's going to be until we get some actual test on it. And in the Plus version, it has this portrait mode lighting. So ultimately, I don't see much here that's going to affect, in the iPhone 8, affect us from a development side. You know, it's all pretty much the expected enhancements that I was imagining. The Touch ID stayed the same, Apple Pay, all of that stuff. None of that really changed from what I can tell. Siri hopefully is getting better. You know, I keep wanting Siri to be great, and it had such a head start over like the Amazon Echo, Alexa, but I don't think it's where I would expect it to be at this point. You know, the battery time, none of that should affect us as developers. So, I mean, I'm not too worried about my apps going over to the iPhone 8 at all. We are going to be in the process of testing them here in the next couple of days, so if I do find a lot of differences, I'll let you guys know. But I have been testing them on iOS 11 for quite a while. I just have not ran it on the emulator yet. Alright, so the big news. This is the one that I think is going to impact us all a little bit. The iPhone X. And really, it's supposed to be the iPhone 10. I don't quite understand what they're getting at with skipping to 10. If anyone knows, I would love for you to leave a comment to kind of explain that. Just as a source of where I am, I actually am an avid iPhone user. I have the Plus version in my pocket right now. I own Apple stock, but I would not consider myself an Apple fanboy. I have a Windows PC right here. I figure out that I lean towards the iPhones more than I do the Androids, even though I do more Android development, which is kind of funny. So for the iPhone 10, there's only two colors, space gray and silver. Same capacity. Looks like the same size as the iPhone 8 Plus, but it has a different pixel resolution. So none of this worries me too much, right? So I mean, we're looking at a typical change. We just got to maybe support a little bit different aspect ratio. I'd have to do the math on it, but I'm imagining the aspect ratio is just going to be a little bit longer than the than the iPhone 8 Plus, just because it's running through the full length. I'm actually pretty excited about the facial detection, and I doubt Apple's going to open this up for all of us, but if they do, the stuff that I think we could do with that would be pretty fantastic. I'm loving the idea of incorporating the detecting a face for unlocking capabilities, and I think it's going to be just like Touch ID. It's going to be easy to use. I don't see that being a problem across the board. Again, the video recording, the camera stuff, all very basically the same as iPhone 8. I mean, improvements like we would expect, right? They would say, they being Apple, would say that this is an evolution in phones. I would say it's a small iteration. I wouldn't say it's as big as what some people are thinking. It's pretty cool, but for the price of $999 starting US dollars, I struggle with it being worthwhile for Apple. Granted, I know, I know Apple's going to come out. It's going to come out. People are going to be lined up for it. The supply is going to be limited. It's going to do well. But ultimately, it's going to be those first couple months that determine, beyond the early adopters, how many people actually jumps on this phone. So the external buttons I thought were kind of interesting, because I noticed in the talk that they actually used the side button to do some of the basic navigation that I would expect. So I'm a little bit interested in how those are going to work. There is one part to the iPhone X that worries me, and I'm going to show you a couple examples here. I'll be flashing them up on the screen. But you see this black section here at the top, and at first it doesn't seem like that big a deal, but some apps are designed to use that section up there. So I'm first going to show you, I've been really confused because I've been running the iOS 11 beta for quite a while now. And I'd been a little bit confused why the headers were getting larger on some of the updated apps. The Mail client was the first one that I noticed that on, and there were a few others, and I'll pull some of those up. But I couldn't quite put my finger on why they'd have that much wasted space. The new norm for iOS is going to be massive headers with wasted space, so it's only going to make sense on these phones. And I know there's probably 3 or 4 apps that we're actively developing that we're going to have to change because of that little black bar up there. I also want to show you the camera app. The camera app actually has controls all the way across that top, which probably are just going to have to come down below that black section, where the call speaker is. A little bit confusing to me. I probably would have liked that to just be, what it needed to be. Make that as near as possible and go all the way across. It looks awesome, but I think from an app developer, that's going to be our biggest impact that we're going to have, is we're going to have to actually start designing around that little black lip. Ultimately, the price starts at $999 for the 64 gigabyte, which ultimately, for me, is probably enough. I don't really load mine with music. I don't load it with tons and tons and tons of things that I use more than 64 gigabytes, even on my current phone. So if I were to get one, I'd probably do the $999 one. The 256 one are going to be for people that need that space for music. It really comes down to that. I know, and I work with several people that have 150 gigabytes of music on their current iPhone. They are not going to want to switch to a new iPhone and not be able to carry their music over to that. So ultimately, I think this is going to be a minor upgrade in the overall scheme of things. But iPhone X, iPhone 10, I keep saying iPhone X, and I would have preferred if they would have done something like this. They've got the iPhone 8, and then they've got hopefully, they skipped the 7S. It's really confusing. So they skipped the 7S, they went to the 8, and they've got the iPhone 10 for the 10-year anniversary for the iPhone. Which, by the way, if you watched the Apple's presentation before the main started. Actually had Steve Jobs presenting the first iPhone. So cool to actually watch that again. Like I remember 10 years ago when that came out and the controversy and I wouldn't say controversy, but like the way people everybody was excited about what phones could do at that point. And I do miss Steve Jobs. I miss the I miss the presentations he had. I miss the ideas that he came up with. And I know that we're not going to be able to have someone like him probably in our lifetime again. But it was really a trip down memory lane. So when they got into the presentation, they also talked about the Apple Watch. So I'll bring up some stuff on the screen about that. But the Apple Watch, to be honest with you, was so hyped about it when the first version came out. And then the hype kind of died down. And then I realized I don't really wear a watch ever. So would I start wearing one for the capabilities that the Apple Watch had? So I went to Apple Store. I checked it out. I played around with it. The spin dial on the side, while clever, I couldn't get to the point where I wanted to wear that all the time. It looks beautiful. I just personally, it wasn't for me at the time. Now the iWatch 3, and I keep calling it iWatch, but it's the Apple Watch. The Apple Watch 3, the third generation, I'm a little more excited about because I can get a cellular plan directly for it. So I can go out on a bike ride with my kids and have my Apple Watch on, take a phone call, do everything that I would absolutely need to do in those situations without bringing my huge iPhone with me. And it kind of got me thinking, I wonder, there was a time when it was like, how small can we make a phone? Now it's like, how big can we make a phone? The bigger the phone, the more important I think a watch actually starts to be. So I wasn't blown away with the overall improvements to the Apple Watch 3, but from a development standpoint, we're going to have to start integrating a lot more of our apps into it. It's going, especially if what they said is that it's the number one watch. If that is true, and there are millions of people that keep buying that watch, we're gonna have to start supporting that. Now, my company today has done some stuff on the Apple Watch, but not a lot. It hasn't been as needed as you would expect. So I'm cautiously optimistic about the future of Apple Watch, but the fact that they're still iterating and developing on it, that's a good sign in my opinion, because Apple makes good products. They do have flops once in a while, but it's still like I give it my approval because they're making the right changes that need to be made. And the technology stuff that they've crammed in that little watch, it's fantastic. It just blows my mind. So from a developer's perspective, I would say there's three major takeaways for me that I have to watch for my company. The first one is the iPhone 10. We need to figure out like how that black bar is going to impact all of our apps. To me, that's the biggest one. I know that's absolutely insane to think about, but that's the more immediate concern that I have. That phone's going to be out in a couple months here. People are going to start having it. We're going to have complaints rolling in about not being able to push buttons if they end up behind that black bar there. The second thing for me is I didn't really talk much about it, but the AR functionality. AR has never really hit mainstream, right? People talk about Pokemon Go being the first AR app, but when they show videos of it, they don't show it in AR mode a lot of times. I was actually watching a news show the other day, and they're like, Pokemon Go, the elite augmented reality app, and they're showing someone catching a Pidgey with AR mode turned off. It's like, okay, people don't really understand what AR actually is. But if it's as powerful as they're claiming, and some of the stuff that I've seen has shown that it is, this could go a long way to pushing it over the edge to something beyond the simplistic implementation that Pokemon Go had. And then the third thing is the Apple Watch. I absolutely need to start paying attention to that. I'm excited, but I'm also cautious about it because I'm not sure how the adoption of that's going to be. And I really am not even sure the price. I'm guessing it's going to be $3.99 or something like that. But ultimately, those are my three big takeaways. And then if I had to say that there was a fourth takeaway, it's the Face ID. Because we do a lot of Touch ID to unlock a lot of our apps today. I'm hoping the Face ID works the same way, where it integrates in very seamlessly and there's not a lot of work that we have to do. But I am excited with some of the stuff they showed with Snapchat, where they're mapping the mesh of the face using some of the neural engine, and then being able to superimpose items, like a mask, for example, on the person's face. I'm a little excited about that. The practicality of that, it's a gimmick, and I stand by that. It's a gimmick that people are going to have fun with, but it doesn't solve any real problems. So I'm not overly blown away for use cases of that, but I'm excited about that the technology is improving. So from a developer's perspective, that's what I'm worried about. Those are the three things that I'm really going to be focusing on watching this. We are actively installing Xcode beta right now. We're going to be setting up and running our apps through the emulators for iPhone 10 and iPhone 8 just to make sure everything's good. I'm a little bit nervous about iPhone 10 because I feel like we're going to have to change some of our layouts. And if it ends up being the case, it could be a significant amount of work depending on how bad it is. All right, that's it for this episode. Take care, guys. Peace out.